Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, today I have the wonderful opportunity to sit down with a great radio personality and personality here at the Montreal International Jazz Festival, Michael Bourne. Now, Michael, I want to talk a little bit about your time here at this festival because you've been here for
21 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
21 years.
Yeah.
So it must be wonderful to come here and each year see something different, you know.
There's always something different. And when I first came, I used to always go to Europe, North Sea or Perugia or wherever. And then I came here by chance in '92, and I enjoyed myself so much. And then for years, I would come here and go to Europe, come here and go to Istanbul, come here and go to Copenhagen.
Yeah.
And then there came a point where I just stayed here. And I enjoyed all those festivals in Europe, but I don't ever have to go there anymore.
Yeah, well, you know,
Everything is here.
This is the shit right here, man.
It's Europe without jet lag, for one thing.
Yeah.
But it's also this festival and the people who run this festival. I come back because of the people more than the festival.
Well, there's really something about the chemistry here. It's a unique chemistry, the fusion of English and French cultures, and the openness of people here.
It's way more than that. This is in many ways a more international city even than New York, because in New York you tend to have people in their neighborhoods, and here everything is together, and especially the music here. I mean, you'll hear Cubans here. You don't hear them anywhere else. In the U.S., you'll hear, and you'll see a whole family from Lebanon or a whole family from Pakistan, and they're wearing the clothes that they wore back then.
Yeah.
And it's three generations, and they're all out there listening to the music, and it's terrific.
Yeah, it's wonderful. You know, this is my second year really being here at the festival, and last year I kind of stumbled upon it, and I went to see Ron Carter at Club Soda, you know. But part of the reason I came to this festival is I hear you talking about it on the radio. You know, WBGO, you're always talking about Montreal and saying such nice things, you know. And every day when I'm driving to a gig or whatever, you know, you're on the radio, and when it comes time to Montreal, you guys always associate with the festival.
That was, the twist was for years I always thought of Montreal as an escape. Now I bring WBGO with me, and bigger than ever this year. I mean, we're producing shows, Simon Rentner is producing shows.
Excellent.
And interviews and things. And then we've been broadcasting live now 9 years.
And you are now incorporating digital. Like you've got the iPod app, you've got the website and the blog. How does that change WBGO for you? Because I'm sure when you started,
it doesn't have any impact
ago,
on me because I'm tech challenged, and I just learned enough to be able to do what I do.
Yeah.
And basically, I just think of myself as playing records. When I started, it was LPs and a microphone. Now it's all this other, you know, it's the digital thing. Okay, great.
Yeah.
The music is the same.
Yeah.
I'm playing the same records.
Yeah, it's just
in a different
format. And what's so cool is I remember listening to you on the radio once. I think somebody interviewed you, and you were talking about how you got into being a disc jockey, and it was almost kind of an
totally
accident.
by chance.
Yeah, by chance.
It was supposed to be for 4 weeks.
Wow.
It's been 41 years.
Well, tell people who are watching this a little bit about that story, or kind of touch upon it.
I started writing about jazz for Downbeat magazine in 1969, and when I was in graduate school, in the theater school at Indiana, the local classical station, there was a jazz show in the afternoon. And they used to invite me to come on once in a while, like, what are the latest hot sides you like, you know? And I'd come on and play some records. And so I got to know the people at the station. And right after my exams, when I took the exams for my doctorate, I didn't have anything else to do. I was burned out from that. And they happened to call me and they said, he's going on vacation for 4 weeks. Would you like to fill in? We'll pay you. I said, you'll pay me to play records? And they said, sure. And I said, okay.
Wow.
And I never turned, I just stayed.
Yeah.
They gave me a show and I stayed. And
Fantastic.
then I came to BGO almost 30 years ago.
Well, you know, you do a real excellent show every afternoon, you know, with, Myers, right? Andrew Myers.
Andrew Meyer, yeah. He's been my partner for about 15 years now.
Wow. And, you know, what's so great is you guys combine jazz with the hustle of the the afternoon rush hour and the stress of the rush hour.
That's the idea, you know. He's supposed to be lively, and you know, we talk about silly things, and we talk about food and
jokes,
and then we, you know, we stop him. I mean, he does the news. That's the thing, and we tell you the traffic and the weather and all that.
Yeah.
So it's different in a way. You have to be more entertaining, and you don't have all that. You know, it's like staccato as opposed to legato. You know, if you're on like in Rhonda's shift in the midday, you don't have to take all those breaks, so you can crisscross and segue into one record after another.
Yeah.
And in the afternoon, you have to play stop and start and stop and start.
Well, you know, you really do a great job of that. And one thing that was so cool was you always do the thing with the jazz schools. So I remember hearing this year, you know, you did
11
Miller.
11 schools.
11 schools, and
Mulgrew Miller, it was his last.
It was his last one, and
he
was
played
my
live
teacher.
with the students, and he did that I think 8 or 9 years in a row.
Wow! And being there and watching Mulgrew during that, is there something you can share with the audience, an anecdote that struck you particularly with Mulgrew?
No, he was just always a really nice guy, and you know, he's a very tall, big,
Stature,
powerful guy, and yet he did not play big, tall, and powerful.
No,
He was very quiet,
Yeah.
quiet fellow, and played beautifully and swung like crazy.
Yeah.
But he was one of the teachers that I enjoyed most sitting in. A lot of the teachers don't sit in.
Oh, okay, they don't sit in.
They just bring, you know, almost every group includes is fronted by a musician.
Yeah.
Gabriel Allegria or Carl Allen
Yeah,
or you know, some of the others who've been there. And Mulgrew, I think, routinely sat in. And
wow, it's fantastic. Well, you know, you're such a great jazz ambassador for people who are tuning in to BGO, you know, in New York. Some people just turn on the radio the first time and they stumble upon 88.3. And
yeah, we're all the
really
way
great.
to the left.
Yeah,
it's easy if you just start over there. And then you don't have to go any further.
Well, you know, you guys are doing such a big service to the scene, and you know, all my peers, us youngsters, we all tune in, and you guys always feature new acts as well.
Sure, always.
And that's great to like hear, like, because I'm on the sessions and such, and sometimes I hear someone like Stacey Dillon or Aaron Deal or Rodney Green, and these are young guys that are hanging, that are finally making it. And
yeah, they show up on our records, and we always have just over 100 new records on this one shelf, and
wow, yeah.
we make a point of playing new records a certain amount every day, mixed in with classics and Latin and swing records, and you know, vocals and the blues hour that I do.
That's excellent, the blues hour too.
And so when you hear somebody like Aaron Deal or Zach Brock or any of these young cats who come along, it's great. And that's what I listen for up here. It's a lot of times I hear artists up here that I haven't heard otherwise. And I actually hear more music in the 12 days or whatever I'm here than I do during the year in New York, because I'm so burned out at night. I don't want to go out and hear more music. I don't want to deal with the stairs at the Vanguard or whatever, although they have great musicians there. But I've heard all those musicians. And up here I hear music that I haven't heard. And I also hear jazz evolve here, because I think this festival really redefines jazz. And you know, people who think jazz is one thing have not looked at the history. It's been many things from the very beginning, and each generation has looked back and been a little annoyed, you know, oh wait, bebop looking back at Louis Armstrong, it's like, no, it's all one continuous thing. And up here you'll hear hip hop jazz that swings.
Yeah, that comes together in such a way.
I mean, it works. And the people up here, they spend a year listening for artists that excite them and turn them on.
Well, you know, Frank Alkier, I was just talking with him yesterday, and he mentioned, you know, because I was thinking about the whole, some people are disappointed that there's rock here, and then there's like, you know, fusions things. There's like, where's the traditional jazz? But Frank was like, there's so many concerts going on here that you might come and stumble here to see someone like Feist, but then you run into some really great jazz and you turn someone on, you know.
George Wein, early on at Newport, the grandfather of all jazz festivals, presented Chuck Berry Muddy Waters.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't get more rock and roll than Chuck Berry.
Sure.
Muddy Waters, the blues. It's always been that way. And George Wayne for years in the New York Festival, he'd have concerts with the OJs or with Aretha Franklin or Ray Charles. Ray Charles is one of the founding artists of this festival in Montreal. He's like a patron saint here almost, musically.
Yeah.
It's all connected. It all comes from the blues anyway.
Yeah.
All
sure,
of it.
Sure. Yeah. It's all. There's roots to this music, and something that you learn. I'm at Rutgers with Lewis Porter. And that's something you learn. There's certain roots to jazz, and it develops over the years. As someone who's so important to jazz, I mean, you've interviewed thousands upon thousands of people.
It's amazing. It's frightening.
Yeah, it is amazing. You're a big role model for me, especially a young person who's doing interviews. I learn by listening to people like you and the way you interview people. Do you have a few memorable interviews that you could touch upon, or people that you remember meeting with that you could share with the audience?
Antonio Carlos Jobim was my favorite interview because I love his songs and his music, and he just told these great stories.
Wow.
And he, Bossa Nova and where that comes from, and he was great. But just Charles Lloyd, just at this festival, just recently, what a treat! In 20 minutes, he's talking about playing when he was 13 with Bobby Bland, and then he's talking about Bela Bartok string quartets, and then he's talking about Cannonball and Chico Hamilton and Miles Davis, and then he's talking about Bob Dylan and the Beach Boys. And they all know him, and he knows them, and it's all it's all connected.
It's connections, yeah. And this music is, as Duke Ellington said, there's only good music and bad music.
Yeah, I mean, there's I wrote a piece called "The Old Fart Meets the New Jazz." I'm the old fart, and I used to run screaming from the electronic and the hip hop and the house and all that. And Laurent Saunier, who is the VP of programming here, I call him the VP of the Edge. He's the one who puts on all these outdoor extravaganzas.
Wow, yeah.
And he challenged me. He said, "Come to Club Soda at midnight, every night, and hear this group and this group and this group." And he said, "You especially have to promise me you'll come hear this group called Plaster." and I wrote this article about that, and it was keyboards and the electric bass and a drummer, and they were all connected to electronics and samples and all that. And it was fascinating to me. They were throwing things back. They were doing sample things like hip hoppers do, like scratchers do with a politician's speech, using words and then making them rhythmic. And then they were throwing these themes back and forth, and it was improvising. And I suddenly realized that what they were doing is what the Count Basie band was doing in the 30s, which was the horn sections were throwing riffs at each other, and out of that comes the groove. And what did Count Basie say jazz was? It was patting your foot, and my foot was just. And I said, "My God, this is what."
Else. Yeah.
And Duke Ellington, I used a quote from him that was on my T-shirt that night by chance from Downbeat, and it was basically that. Jazz is self-expression, and there are no rules. And it was like, there you go. So if you think that this is jazz and this is not jazz, that's not what Duke said.
Yeah. Well, that's a really interesting point, because there's some people in this music who want to draw boundaries, and that kind of, in my opinion, puts a limit on this music, and kind of is more of a problem than a blessing,
Well, that's always been true, putting things in boxes and categorizing things, and that's all about marketing and selling things. But the music is a living thing, and it keeps on going. I'm still playing the same records that I'm playing the first day, 40 years ago.
Yeah.
I'm still playing Time Out. That's the first jazz record I ever bought, Dave Brubeck. But I'm still playing Louis Armstrong records from 90 years ago.
Yeah.
And if you listen to that opening trumpet cadenza on West End Blues, it's still one of the most exhilarating moments in the whole history of the world music.
Yeah.
And it's more avant-garde than anything that's come along since then in many ways.
Yeah.
So that's always going to be good. It's always going to be timeless and ageless. And you'll hear music that was made last year that already sounds dated. I'll actually hear what's supposed to be the cutting edge sometimes. And the cutting edge is old immediately. and then you hear somebody, and then you listen to Pops and Earl Hines, and it's like, oh.
That's what it is.
And that doesn't put down that there are people who are cutting edge, and they really are doing new things. And it's wonderful to hear that. I always love that.
Well, before I let you go, thank you so much for talking about your life a little bit and about this festival. Share with us something you'd like people to know about your relationship with Montreal.
It's personal. It's not, somebody said, well, you got honored last year. I mean, I got this as a life pass.
Wonderful.
I mean, there's only been about 5 of these ever given anybody.
Certainly deserve it.
And they said, well, you got it for being here for 20 years. They said, no, I didn't. I got it because of my relationship with the people in the festival. And I'm Uncle Michel. I mean, Oncle Michel. That's some of them call me that. But it's a family relationship, and I've been part of that family almost really from the very beginning.
Wow.
And it's an extraordinary thing. I really love these people, and they really love me. And I'll tell you that one of the great things about it all is it's a very successful business. But first and foremost, it's a business run by people who really love music. And that's what they were to begin with. And that's what they still are. So when you listen to Andre Menard and Alain Simard and Laurent Saunier and Caroline Johnson, all these people who program the show and make the festival happen, these are people who really love the music. And every year I have rituals where I say to Caroline, I say to Laurent, I hold up the schedule and I say, tell me. And they say, oh, you got to hear this, you got to hear this, and you got to hear this, and you got to go hear this.
Wow.
And then you got to go hear this one, and this one, and this one, and this one. And I go to hear as many of them as I can. Because I don't know anything about them, and it doesn't matter. It's like when I go to the theater. I don't read programs, I don't read the press material. When the curtain opens up, there it is. Show me what you got. And so a lot of times here at this festival, I do the same thing with music. Wow. I have no idea what they're going to play.
It's a blindfold test, so to speak.
Well, that's it. But you're taking off the blindfold, and it's all right there. And it's happened here. And the feeling and the reason that I love coming here because the audience is great. Brubeck, he came year after year. Tony Bennett, they love playing here.
And something about Montreal just opens up artists to play in historic ways. And there's so many great concerts here from the festival that are documented in history. This year, Wayne Shorter, 80th birthday. Charles Lloyd, the 3 different invitation series, and that's just fantastic, And your personal story is quite interesting and unique. Do you think you'll ever move here, permanent?
No, I'm a New Yorker, and that's where I belong. That's where everything that I do is.
Theater.
The theater and jazz, and that's and it gets really cold here in the wintertime. So. The older you get, I'm telling you, I'm going to warn you now. The older you get, the more you're going to hate winter. And up here, it's phenomenal.
It's crazy.
Up here, so. I like being here in the summertime, but I do. I just love the city, and I like the food. But first and foremost, I just love the people here. The people who run this festival.
Thank you, Michael. And any lasting words for people who are watching this?
Come on up. Come on up to Montreal. Festival International de Jazz de Montréal. Merveilleux.
Well, cats, thank you so much. Thanks for tuning in. Check out Michael Bourne. Monday through Fridays, WBGO.
And Sundays from 10 a.m. until 2.
Talking about theater.
Singers Unlimited.
Singers Unlimited. Well, Michael, thanks again, man. I really appreciate it.
Good to see you.
Thanks for the talk.